Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here, Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is we bring social as well as emotional and coaching topics to the surface so that people can digest them in a relatable way. And if you're new, please like, subscribe, comment below. And also, we do audios hopefully on a more regular basis once August gets here. And if you'd like a topic covered, please feel free to comment below and we'll make that happen for you. But today, we're going to talk about something that I think almost everybody listening would care about, and that is pathways to success. What are some things that successful people do or focus on that make them successful? This is really, really useful because in the end, if you know how to be successful or you study successful people, it's easier for you to reach your goals. It's easier for you to reach your life objectives and do things that really are meaningful and matter to you. And so that is a good thing. And I'm going to run through about 9 of those here today. And so the first thing is having a growth-related mindset. That which isn't growing dies. That which is growing thrives. And so from a very basic level, if you are not growing in as many areas of your life as possible, preferably, but at least one area of your life, if it's not growing, you're eventually going to become depressed. You're eventually going to become anxious. You're probably going to become listless, unhappy, unsatisfied, undervaluing yourself and your contributions, and sooner or later you'll disconnect from people because if you're not growing, then there's nothing new to talk about. So a growth mindset is basically, I want to accomplish X. Preferably, I want to accomplish X by Y. So having a loose time frame within the next year, within the next month, within the next 6 months, it helps us to create a level of personal accountability within ourselves. Someday I want to blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, someday isn't a day on the calendar and really doesn't have any real value. But if you say within the next 6 months, within the next 5 years, by the time I'm 40 or by the time I'm 25 or whatever the case is, having some sort of marker is extremely valuable. Now, the next thing here kind of goes hand in hand with that, which is a productivity-based mindset. I call the people on this channel that follow the channel the Progress Drive because progress is the key to success in simplest form. If you're not progressing, eventually you're either stalling or regressing, and both of those have negative consequences. When we stall, we feel uninspired, eventually listless, tired, and somewhat self-rejecting. When we regress, we actually lose ground we've made, which makes us wonder if we have the strength to do it all over again. So having, again, back to goals, mindset of goals that I'm going to accomplish this today, I'm going to accomplish this week, this month, this year, whatever it is, and also looking at how to break your time down into the most valuable of times. I'm having to learn that with running these channels alongside my other businesses because I'm not meeting my own productivity standards with how much content I want to put out on the channel. And I say that here as an accountability that hopefully by August I'll have figured it out. Now, mind you, I started this channel a couple of years ago, and my life was much, much different then, and it is very different now. Business is going in different directions than it was then. I have different objectives and things I want to accomplish, including moving somewhere else in the country, among other things. And there's a lot of different things that I'm looking to accomplish I wasn't focused on then, and so my priorities shift, but also my time management hasn't shifted productively enough for my own standards. And so that's another thing, too. Find your standards of productivity. What are you going to be happy with? If it's doing something once a week, if it's doing something every day, if it's doing something once a month or every other weekend or whatever that looks like, commit to whatever your standard is, because if you don't commit to your standard, eventually you'll give up on whatever the project is. Self-awareness is the next important factor. So what is it to be self-aware? It's to check in with your own emotional state and figure out, is this positive and progressive or is this negative and destructive? So the basic, if we break life down into simplest form, actions taken are either positive and progressive, meaning we're moving forward, or negative and destructive, meaning we're moving backwards. Sometimes, every once in a while, you'll come across a neutral action, but if you really needed to, in the matter of, finding one side or the other. Most of the time, 98, 99% of the time, you could classify an action as positive or negative. And so when we take a positive action, we look at the repeatability factor and the relatability factor. Can I relate to why I did this so that I want to do it again? And can I repeat doing this because it's valuable to me? Should I repeat doing this because it's valuable to me? When you're self-aware also, negative emotions and negative experiences are time for reflection and reevaluation. Reflection meaning, hey, why did I do that? Or why did I allow that? Or why did I react that way? Or whatever the case may be. And reevaluation. Do I really need that relationship? Do I really need that job? Do I really need that person or situation in my life? Am I happy with how I'm using my time? Am I happy with my social circle? Am I happy with my financial goals being met or not met? Like, where do I need to improve, and where can I loosen up a little bit? Now, doing self-evaluation every day may be overwhelming for some people, although I think that we can all find 15 minutes in our day to kind of go, hey, how did I go? Did I win? Did I win and come out ahead, or did I fall a little short? But if you're not going to do it daily, then at least once a week, taking time to evaluate where the last 7 days went. Because realize we all have a finite, limited amount of time, some more, some less. But at the end of the day, we all have finite amounts of time on this planet. And so managing how we use our time well and making sure that our emotional state is progressive is key to being successful. Of course, the definition of success is different for different people. There are some people that having a strong family bond is success. There are other people that making $1 million or $10 million is success. Some people's success is fame. Other people's success is artistry. Other people giving to others and being philanthropic is successful. So it's important that you don't let other people, and this is a huge warning, do not let other people determine what makes you successful, because they're not living your life. They're not having your life experience. And when we give away the power to allow other people to determine what makes us successful, eventually, sooner or later, it may take a month, it may take a year, it may take 10 years, 20 years, whatever it takes, but sooner or later, we'll wake up and go, wait, I was living someone else's life. And I've done that twice in my lifetime. Once with a family member and once in a relationship. And both times it's like, dude, I lost a bunch of time here. Like, it was wasteful. It was unnecessary. It was a bad use of time management. It was a lot of things I don't want. And so finding a way to refocus when we have done that and forgive ourselves is extremely important. So the next thing I want to touch on is placing proper value on emotions. Emotions are indicators, and I know that anyone who's a client of mine who's listening to this is groaning because you've heard this from me before, but emotions are indicators. If we break emotions down into the simplest form, they're indicators of one of two things. Positive emotions are reasons to stop and show gratitude and gratefulness for what we're experiencing and to stay present moment-minded. And negative emotions are an indication that we need to change something. Every time you have a negative emotion, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm whatever, all negative emotions are indicators that something needs to change. It can be our perspective, it can be our surroundings, it can be our relationships, it can be our finances, it can be any number of things, but a negative emotion is an indicator that something needs to change. Now, when you sit with negative emotion too long, yes, it can create problems in your brain, it can create depression, it can create anxiety, it can create suicidal ideation, among other nasty things, but if people are emotionally aware and they value emotions properly, then they don't get to that place most of the time. There are rare cases where we talk about things like chemical imbalances where a person doesn't have as much control as they would like over their emotional state. However, there's beginning research in the last 3 to 5 years that says even chemical imbalances were preventable at some point. Now, many times, by the time someone has a chemical imbalance, reversing it is very difficult, if not impossible, without proper medications, along with CBT or other types of therapy. However, if a person learns to value their emotions at an early enough age or before a trauma, the likelihood of having one of those basic brain splits that cause chemical imbalances is drastically reduced. The next, and to close out on the valuing emotions, don't overvalue them. So overvaluing emotions is, I feel this way, therefore I'm not going to do this thing. Or I feel this way, therefore I'm going to react to how I feel. Emotions are just indicators. They are not invitations to act unless you've logically thought through the consequences. Here's the big one: the consequences and potential benefits of your action. So if you're compelled to act from an emotional place, one thing to do is to ask yourself, hey, it's time to do a cost-benefit analysis. What could this cost me? How will this benefit me? And if the benefits outweigh the costs, then go ahead and take your actions. If the costs outweigh the benefits, then it might be time to reset your emotions before taking any action, because if the cost outweigh the benefit, and usually there's a long-term potential problem there. So, another thing that you've got to think about is be easy on yourself. Look, we all make missteps. We all step out of alignment with the things that we wish we could do. We all choose the wrong people in relationships from time to time. We all go for a job that doesn't pan out the way we wanted it to. I was actually talking with a client of mine about a week and a half ago who got his dream job only to learn that the company he worked for was not what he thought at all. And the dream job, after having it for a couple of years, had literally changed him as a person. And he's like, that was the dream, now what? And it's like, now you set a new dream and you go for it. And he's having a bit of a difficult time dealing with, I got everything I thought I wanted. It turned out to let me down. I didn't let it down. I did everything I could to make it work, but it just didn't work. So now what do I do? And resetting himself is something he's going to have to go through. And I think all of us go through times in our life where what we wanted, it doesn't turn out to be what we needed. And being easy on ourselves and going through acts of self-forgiveness is essential in those situations. So the next thing is learn from discomfort. Look, none of us like to be unhappy. None of us like to be uncomfortable. None of us like to be in situations where we feel like we're out of sorts, we're out of line, nothing's going our way, everything's against us. None of us want to be in that situation. But those are also great tools for learning. Every loss in life is an opportunity to win later. And especially with things like COVID. You know, I hear so many people saying, my freedom's been taken away, life is so difficult now, what am I going to do? And it's like, well, wait a second. You were also counting on the fact that your life was never going to change. At a secret level, whether it's the security of your job or the death of a loved one, you were assuming and making a really large assumption that things weren't going to change. And so change is one of the inevitabilities of human existence. Therefore, from time to time, change will bring with it discomfort. Finding a way to cope with the discomfort and learn from it and grow from it and become a better, more powerful, more focused person is extremely important. Now, there's another factor in this process, which is focusing your energy. Look, we only have 24 hours in a day. We only have 365 days in a year. We only have 52 weeks in a year. We all have the same amount of time. You know, the 86,400 principle is there's 86,400 seconds in every given day. What are you doing with yours? And so when we focus our energy, when we set goals and then only give our energy to things that are productive or things that we feel can move forward or things that we're passionate enough about that even if it doesn't work out, we won't regret it later, then we're using our energy properly. But if you're dealing in a toxic relationship, or you're dealing at a job where you legitimately hate what you're doing, or you're dealing with even sometimes with our children, and I know this for some people will be controversial, but if you don't have a bond with your child, finding a way for them to get their emotional needs met is important. Or if you don't have a bond with your parent, finding a way for them to get their emotional needs met is important. Finding a way that everyone gets what they need without taking advantage of others is essential in every social situation, in every social dynamic. And so focusing your energy on things that are moving forward and letting go of things you feel aren't going to move forward is essential to the realities of, you know, what's needed and how things continue to build. And so the next is take action. Look, even if you fall short, even if you come up short, even if nothing goes the way you plan, the action not taken is a guarantee that you'll never grow. And so whether it's asking somebody out or filling out that job application or finding a way to spend more time in your meditative or prayer life or finding a way to rededicate yourself to a hobby, whatever it is, take action today because tomorrow's not a guarantee and yesterday doesn't matter. What I mean by yesterday doesn't matter isn't that your experiences are invalid. It's that you can't go back and change it, and there's absolutely no value in reflecting negatively on what we cannot change. And tomorrow is not a guarantee, and so many people live like it is, right? But I guarantee you, nearly every person who died yesterday, unless they had a terminal prognosis and they'd been warned, nearly every person that died within the last 24 hours believed they'd be here today, and they were wrong. And so it matters to take action whenever we can, as often as we can, towards the goals we have, towards the ambitions we seek to have, and ultimately coming to a consensus that every action not taken is a missed opportunity. The last one in this particular audio is to kill your limits. Look, everyone has limitations, and everyone has things they can't do. I'm not good with technology. I'm not good with I hate sales calls unless somebody calls me. There are things that I will never be good at doing. But at the same time, if you really need to do something and it's going to drastically affect your life or the lives of people you love, you learn to kill those limits. You learn to find ways around the things that make you uncomfortable. Not because it really matters one way or the other what you do, but it matters whether or not you're making progress or not. And that's what really counts. Is progress a focal point for you? And if not, why not? And if it is, you've got to push past those limitations. There's a gentleman by the name of Nick Vujicic who, no arms, no legs, but he's an evangelist who's been to, I don't know, 80, 90 countries, whatever it is now. And he was told he'd never really amount to much by certain doctors, or that they didn't know what happened to him and how he was going to make it and all this stuff. And then there's Kyle Maynard, who no arms, no legs, but he was a UFC fighter and he climbed one of the tallest mountains in the world with no arms and no legs. At the end of the day, you can make history or you can make excuses. Which one are you going to do? I'm not saying that everyone can do everything they want, but you have to learn to push your limits in order to find what you can do. And for some people, that means coming really close to death or really close to being uncomfortable because they're homeless for a while, or really close to being uncomfortable because they leave a toxic relationship or they leave their family behind. Look, if we only get one life, and that's what the majority of people believe, we only get one life, then sometimes there's risks where you have to push beyond what you believe your perceived limitations are. Otherwise, you'll never know. And living with regrets. I volunteered with an organization where there were some folks who were very close to terminal. And I asked an older lady one time, she was probably close to 90, and I said, is there anything you regret? And she said, yes. And I said, what's that? And she said, every chance I didn't take. And it was so poetic because it's like there's this reality of we all are going to come to a place in our lives where we will regret the chances we didn't take. And so if you take the majority of them, as long as you plan it out and look at positive and negative and evaluate, but when we evaluate and we think we can come out ahead, take those chances, take those risks, because at the end of the day, you're going to end up in your final moments regretting those chances you didn't take. So anyway, we will close for today, but I remind you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.